Tenet is written and directed by Christopher Nolan and stars John David Washington, Robert Pattinson, and Elizabeth Debicki. In a twilight world of international espionage, an unnamed CIA operative, known as the protagonist, is recruited by a mysterious organization called Tenet to participate in a global assignment that unfolds beyond real time. The mission? Prevent Andrei Sator, a renegade Russian oligarch with precognition abilities, from starting World War III. I just read that description from IMDb because I'm not trying to get into too many spoilers. Before I go much further, this, from what I hear, is supposed to be the movie that saved movie theaters. I unfortunately don't think that's going to be the case. There were only, at least where I went, 2 or 3 cars in the parking lot. And I don't know if it's because a lot of people don't know the theaters are open. People are still scared and worried about contracting COVID-19, or maybe people just weren't interested in seeing Tenet. I am a huge Christopher Nolan fan. I think he is the best director out there and writer, period. I mean, when you have works like Interstellar, Inception, The Dark Knight, there's not really anybody that comes close. Maybe with the exception of Quentin Tarantino or maybe J.J. Abrams. This movie was overall a good movie to go watch. I was super excited. I get to the first half of the movie. I got there maybe 20 minutes late. Well, of course, I figured I missed a lot of the previews. I got there and I was very confused in the first act. Well, it turns out that in the beginning, a lot of people were confused, I found out. A lot of critics and that I read about and watched online said the same thing, that the first half is somewhat slow. We're trying to basically connect the dots. There's a little bit of character developing, but we don't really know much about these characters at the same time. In the first half, of course, this is a Christopher Nolan film. He makes you think, but not. This movie would probably be a much harder movie to digest of Nolan's work, even than Inception and Interstellar. I didn't think that Inception or Interstellar was hard to digest, but for some people it was. This movie's definitely would be a bit more challenging to understand than the other 2 that I just mentioned. John David Washington is brilliant. The cast in this movie is brilliant. They didn't go wrong with any of their casting. They were phenomenal. But like I said, we don't know much about the characters. I also want to get to the point of there were parts in this movie where I couldn't really hear what was going on. Now, I just went to the standard showing. I didn't go to an IMAX or a Dolby Digital theater to see this. And there were at times where it was just super, super loud. It was either super loud or the cast was speaking in a way that I could not hear them, or they were talking too fast. And I thought that was just me, though. Well, I go home to look at different reviews and what was said, and a lot of people said the same thing. Apparently, this is a thing that Christopher Nolan does now. I didn't pay much attention to it in Interstellar, so if this is something, and maybe it was 1917, he did one of these movies, or it was Dunkirk, one of these 2 movies he's done. Maybe he did it in that movie. I haven't seen either one of those, 1917 or Dunkirk. But that was something, I didn't hate it or anything. I just thought it was so loud. I could not understand what was being said or what was going on. Speaking of sound, the soundtrack is done by a man named Ludwig Göransson. He sounds a lot like Hans Zimmer. I thought this was Hans Zimmer, which is a great thing. But no, it was a guy named Ludwig Göransson, and he apparently did Black Panther and the Creed movies. Pretty interesting. You would have never known the difference. And all these scenes in between are in Christopher Nolan fashion. You got the loud music, the loud sound effects, the camera angles, the story kicks in. And that's a great thing about this movie. The second half of the movie is where things really come alive. It's where the story comes alive. It's where the characters start to make more sense. It's not until the second half of this movie where things start piecing together. And there's one thing I want to touch on briefly without trying to spoil this movie called time inversion. And like when you rewind something and you see things go backwards, well, that happens in this movie. It's a conception of seeing a car, bird, any kind of object moving backwards. And you get to see this in this movie, and things can happen where someone meets someone in this effect. It's strange, it's kind of hard to explain, but you can rewind in this movie and go to certain parts in the past that meet the future. It's really hard to explain, but you'd have to see it. It's really cool. It makes you think, and that's what's cool about this movie. If you love time travel or anything having that involves time. Of course, this is Christopher Nolan we're talking about, so I'm not surprised at all that he threw this in there. It really makes you think about the law of physics. Everything's out of the question in this movie. I mean, it's off the table. Anything's possible. The second half of the movie is great. The villain's great. Overall, I don't think that Tenet is, for me, this is just for me, I don't think it was as good as Inception or Interstellar, but it's a total different thing of its own, right? It's not supposed to be like the other two movies, but my overall enjoyment factor wasn't as high as Inception and Interstellar. I would give Tenet overall a 7 out of 10. Like I said, it was good. No really complaints. I was excited to go to the theater to actually see this. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to save movie theaters. I don't want movie theaters to go out of business. I want them to stay as they are. Yeah, it's cool and convenient to have things streaming, but movie theaters and cinema are a big part of my life, and it would just be, I just don't want to see that field of work go out. I just enjoyed it too much growing up, so it's something nostalgic about it. Not to mention, you would be hurting people's jobs by shutting down a lot of these movie theaters. I mean, sure, they could probably find some work somewhere else, but that's not the point. I want to keep movie theaters alive, and I think if you are a Christopher Nolan fan, you definitely need to watch this movie. The cast overall was great. This is the first movie I've watched with John David Washington in it. I believe he plays in BlacKkKlansman. I haven't tried it yet, but I plan on doing it. And what did you think of Tenet? Did you think it was a good movie? Did you think it was worth the hype? Remember, I'm giving this movie a 7 out of 10. Do you think that is a justified rating? Or do you think it should be rated higher, lower? What's something that you thought about the movie? Please like and comment on my channel. I would truly appreciate it. Give me some feedback. Let me know if I'm doing well, if there's something I need to do better. And I would truly appreciate it. Plus, it lets me know that you care. That'll do it, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope to release some more reviews in the near future. But until then, I hope you guys stay safe and have a good one.